But let's say you are online, last thing you want is a hacker turning on your webcam, seeing you take that lovely sweet donut and stuff it full of cream, and then have them share that recipe all over the internet. Hey there everybody, and welcome back to the Digital Paul Workshop. It is I, that flash that always gave you red eyes in your old pic, Techno Meow Tinkerer. And today we're going over a little project, and if you watch some of my past videos, you know I do have quite a couple USB type cameras, or cameras that connect USB to the computer. I have a laptop webcam that I put a USB cable to, that little cheapy webcam a friend gave me, and the Wi-Fi microscope / magnifying glass camera. I say microscope even though it says magnifying glass. I say magnifying glass even though it says microscope. Get myself straight. And one reason I've been wanting to do this is because hackers have the ability to, at least they say, when you're connected to the internet. Now, if you're using a DIY kill switch, you won't have to worry about having them hack it when you're not online. So if you've seen that video, you know that would protect you from this. But let's say you are online, last thing you want is a hacker turning on your webcam, seeing you take that lovely sweet donut and stuff it full of cream, and then have them share that recipe all over the internet. Yes, I am using figure of speech to describe a certain action. And so now they do have covers for some of the webcams, but mine are standalone ones. So one, I don't know if the covers works, and two, about every webcam except for the microscope one has a microphone. So yes, you can maybe block the video, but you may not be able to muffle the sound of the audio so they can still hear what's going on. And so I always leave my cameras unplugged, but the problem with that is that you do run wear and tear on both the plug, the outlet the plug's going in, and the wiring doing it. So I want to make sort of a kill switch or power on off switch for all my cameras. And one of the things we see here in the video is this plastic box I picked up. Now I was looking for a project box to do this, but I never could find the right size at a good price. And the ones on the eBay, as we covered on the DIY kill switch videos, get kind of high. But I found this in the not craft section, the school supply, office supply section of Walmart for less than $1. And it was about the size I wanted. And of course I got these little toggle switches fairly cheaply off of eBay. It came in 3 a pack, which was perfect because I needed to have 3 cameras. And one of the very first thing I did is go into, after getting all those measurements, go into Krita. Now I probably should have done this in Illustrator, but I've forgotten how in Illustrator put in exact measurements, and I just did not feel like going back and trying to relearn that. But yeah, I was creating a basic layout template so where I can everything go. Now I just did a quick one here in Krita to try and get the size I needed, and then I decided to import it over into Illustrator to get more precise areas. And I probably could have done it in Krita. Just with Illustrator you can kind of do it quickly. As you can see, I can quickly set up a bunch of boxes to the size I need and use them to create the guides. I wonder why that one would look so low for. But yeah, just use some of the guides to get everything to where I need it to be. Print out the template. Now I'll sit here with cutting it with the X-Acto knife on my glass that I use. Now if you took apart a printer or anything, you can always have glass in it, a whole picture frame that you no longer need, or the frame's broke but the glass is still good. You can always use the surface. It works great with cutting with an X-Acto knife. I kind of got this from my dad when he used to do repair works on old VHS tapes. When they would break, he would take, because we used to have a video rental store, and he also did TV and VCR repair. But the VHS tapes would break, he would go in and they had a special tape used, and he would splice them back together. And this is where I learned to use a glass mat for cutting. One thing I did realize when I was cutting this template out was that it did tear the paper there, which means I need to change the blade. Usually one way to tell also needs to change the blade is whether it has a point on the end, or is it looking a little like a flat blunt edge where the point has worn down or broken off. But just cut out one hole here first just to see how everything looks and fits. Now I originally designed this for like going on the back side, but when I saw the curved edges, like, I don't know if I want to do the curve, and trying to figure out how to put it on, because I do want an image, so I ended up putting it on the front. Now this was just a test fitting just to make sure I got the size close as be. I mean, if it's a little small, that's okay. It's easier to widen the hole than it is to fill it in on certain things. Now, I could probably use hot glue, but I didn't want to get that. That's a lot of messy. And of course here I pull out all my USB wires I've collected over the years. Some old and dusty I got from bins at a junk store. Others from like USB printers with the USB or Type B ends on them that I have really no need for. Now I do like the USB Type B ends because it was easier to see which way to plug the wire up to versus the Type A, which is the most common. Now Type C is nice because you don't have to really look. You can go either way. But one of the things too, and boy, you can see that where some of the wiring, the housing is falling apart. But I wanted 3 different types of wire or looks. Well, that's why one's matted, one's shiny, and one's white. Is because when I look at the back of which switch goes to where, I can easily go down to my computer without having to trace the wire. But it didn't work out that way. I ended up having to replace some of the wires. Now, drilling into plastic, I learned by doing this, was first starting to do this, so you can see I'm having trouble. It is better to drill using a smaller bit and then make the hole wider. And also to add support to the back of the plastic. And as we go along, you'll see I did this. But you just need two holes for the coping saw. You could have done 3, but 2 works fine. And this is just mainly to get the saw into the plastic so I can cut along 2 edges. Each hole covers 2 edges. I had to make it slightly bigger because I need to get that rounded end of the coping saw through. And it's weird because sometimes this coping saw work with me of putting it back together, and other times it gave me hell. Again, trying to cut a flimsy piece of plastic is not as easy or quick. It did go through quicker. Now, if the saw wasn't metal, I could probably done it, but it'd be great if it could do something similar to the coping saw with a piece of wire and a battery to heat up the wire, just to melt the way through the plastic. Although you'll probably want to do that in a well-ventilated outside area because plastics do put off fumes and they can be toxic depending upon the plastic. And then I didn't see a number on the plastic of this box telling you what type of plastic it is. And of course, I'm sitting here, I'm cutting just the first hole out and to test now. And as you can see, the painter's tape ain't holding real well, so I probably should use something else, but it's right here at me at my station, and I didn't want to fix with something that's going to leave a residue. This goes in trying to cut on this side of that little bit of area to grab where you need something on the other side, because see how it's vibrating, so it made this side a little harder to cut. Yep, got that piece of plastic out. And of course, just to do a quick fit, just to see, noticing it's like I said, it's better the hole to be a little smaller than larger. And what ended up happening, as you see here, is everything's already done. I asked my dad for one of his RASP files so I can clean them larger, and he ended up doing it for me because he needed me to do a project on the computer for him. So I let him clean them up for me while I did some computer stuff for him. And if you watch my video on the Mega Man diorama, you will recognize this right here. I was trying to decide what I want to decorate it with. I went to Transformers, but the problem with a lot of their computerized stuff in the background is that most of it is all uniform color. and it has some detailed line work, but I want a bit more. And so I borrowed some of the sprites from the Mega Man 2 video game. One of these, like the blue one, right? The blues you see there are from the final level where you go face the different robots. That's why they have the transport. And trying to get this lined up the right size I wanted was fun. And for some reason, when I went to resize the sprite pictures, they would blur on me, which is weird because, well, I didn't resize them the same way I did in the diorama video, which would have made it clearer. Now here's the final product. Now if I used it, like I said, the screen, 3 different screens, those wheel things I used. Oh yeah, right now I was pointing out I used tape and glue. Now when I went to glue it down, I scored the plastic to make sure the glue had something good to hold on to. Now I did use that same glue I used, matter of fact, it was that E6000 glue I used in my diorama, but I still scored the plastic. Now those little wheel things that were on the picture, they're from the Mega Man 2 game. When I first played the game, I used to thought they were like old audio reels because it reminded me of, but they might be generators. But here they're supposed to signal like an audio reel. Sitting here, some of these wires, I did do a project I want to try to redo, maybe at a later date with them, see if I can get it to work second time going around. But like I said, I was wanting to decorate this thing, and it took a little while to get it down using that side. And here's, like I said, what I learned, that if you put something sturdy in the back, it helps drill a whole lot easier. Now I think I originally drilled a hole the size, the diameter of the black cable, which the black cable wouldn't fit, so I needed to drill it slightly bigger. And now what I did learn later on is that each wire I use had a different diameter. The 3 wires I use for the splitter are all the same size, but the other wires, the white one and 2 black ones, were different sizes. The white was its own size, and both black were a size. So 3 were one size, 2 were one size, and 1 was one size. So you have a step process of wiring. Now one thing I didn't do, but my dad said if I may need to do with this box, is I didn't put no aluminum foil or around the inside the box, and that's if I have RF interference. Dad says if I'm having RF interference with the signal, stick some aluminum foil in the box, and that will block out any radio signals. And so far of testing and using this, because yes, right now I am using it, recording. It is connected to my camera that I have tracking me right now, and it's connected to also my webcam I have pointing down. And I'll explain why I don't have the microscope camera hooked up in the bit. And try to get some support, make it where it's easier to hold. Yeah, here I try to draw with a bigger bit. I don't think it went through as easy. That's why I ended up going to a smaller bit. And it might be just because the fact that plastic is flexible, so it's why it's probably easier to do pinpoint drilling versus a larger one to get. I mean, I'm just using some of the holes in the design of this thing just to be like, oh, they already got the hole, got holes already. Well, circles already placed. I'll just use them. Have that one piece of plastic that did not want to come out. I probably didn't need to worry about it because it's not going to be seen, but I kind of want it cleaned up a little bit. And of course, well, like see, 2 of these are at the USB type B ends, and I think one's like the micro type A. I don't have really much of anything that uses the micro. Everything I think uses the mini or the type C. Well, correction, I think I do have some that still uses the micro, but they have their own cables, and it's usually power. You clip off the ends. I'm going to hold on those ends just in case I may want to use them for something. It'd probably be for decoration more than any actual technological use. Like I said, artists and I think artists, woodworkers, and even technicians, we all tend not to throw things away. And when you're all three, you really pile up on the collection of scrap. Oh yeah, not these wire colors, but the little wire strippers I used to use them for the old RG6 and RG59, and actually had to use it not that long ago. Ran a cable wire. I have a bunch of RG6 cable, and I ran a wire from our security system to my room using it. And that way I can view the front door camera from my workstation, so I can see when someone comes up in the driveway. So yeah, RG6 and RG59 still has its use. And if you got a bunch of it laying around like I did, it's a very cheap use. But yeah, one of the issues though with this stripper I'm using, as I'm drilling some more holes here, is that I would love the universal stripper, because sitting here trying to strip wire of hairline copper, well, most of them had copper. I think one had some other type of wiring. It was a gray one. But sitting there trying to do it and not break the copper wiring, is a job, and I end up breaking it and have to do a lot of resorting. And that is one reason why I don't have I'm thinking might be why I don't have the microscope camera connected, because when I originally did this, and I'll show a little later on, I did a test run of making sure everything worked before kind of finalized putting some of the stuff together, and one of the switches worked but the other two didn't, and I connected my USB fan to the other two to see whether it's data or power, and one was data, one was power, so I knew which set of wires to go in and have to work on. And then one of them I end up breaking right where the black and the color wire meets. Somehow when I was stripping it, I ended up damaging that part, and that broke loose. So I would like to be able to get the wire strippers, the universal ones, so I hopefully can avoid doing that. Because whereas in the past, as foam wire, I think you can kind of do it with your fingernails, strip those little tiny wires. With the USB, it ain't that way. That is a bit more tougher wire. Well, you saw, or you're gonna see, if you don't see, you see it when I go to strip some of these things, that you'll see I have to pull quite a couple times by applying a little bit of pressure to finally get them stripped. And this time I was smart. I actually fed two of the wires through before stripping them, so I wouldn't have to do what I'm doing here, fight to try to get them in. Now I wanted them snug too, so that way if I did go to move it, it wouldn't pull on the joints as easy. Which also meant when I went to put this thing together, I had to slowly pull each one through the hole as I pushed the top down to try to keep from damaging. And what ended up happening, when I first got everything fixed, everything worked fine, but when I went to put the base on, it didn't work again, and come to find out, I had to redo one set of wiring. The same one that was giving me power issues. And the other one, if I had the top off, it would work. But when I went to push the thing in, the pressure of the back, again pushing on the wires, somehow broke the connection. So I might have a broken wire there that is being disconnected, because I couldn't see anything being crossed, because I do put the electrical tape on. As you can see here, I'm sitting there trying to clean each wire, and that red power one was giving me trouble. But I did put electrical tape on each one. Here I used the microscope cameras to try to see a little bit better. I got a little bit better footage of me soldering it, using it. I'll show you in just a second. And there's another thing, that's why I also want those other helping hands to have all the little joints. This guy I've had for a while, but when it comes to doing this type of work, he doesn't being close enough, and that that magnifying glass, I'm thinking about removing because it makes the thing top heavy and wants to tip over all the time. Yeah, I'm sitting here, I think I was doing it this way. I was sitting here trying to watch, I was trying to look at the screen, which the way it's displayed here is the way it's displayed for me. Because I'm wearing glasses, because it definitely is better than trying to use that magnifying glass. And something I forgot to do when I went to do this is that trying to wrap the wire in electrical tape is not as easy. I find it easier just to fold it over small wire like this. And I don't know why I don't want to stick. It might be because this thing is like a 10-year-old roll, so it might have lost some of its adhesive ability. I don't know, was it a 10-year-old or did I buy this one recently? I can't remember. Some of my stuff is over a decade old and some of it is kind of new. And as you see here, I soldered the, I did have to change that one out. I soldered the red power wire up to the switch on both sets of wires going to each switch. As you see here, I have to slowly pull as I bring it together. I didn't realize till after I soldered everything, I kind of wired it up. I wanted a bigger wire on the bottom and a smaller one on top. Didn't realize that till after I did it. Like, note to self, pay attention when you go to solder which wire you got where. Now, one of the things I'm doing here is I'm drilling in holes on the side clamps, because these clamps do not connect very sturdy. They easily fall off. And so I'm drilling a hole to put screws in on the side to help hold them in place. It also adds a little bit more decorative, and I wasn't quite sure yet how I was going to do the base, and so I might end up using them. One of the very first things I did when trying to figure out how I want this thing set is I took some popsicle sticks and I cut some 45-degree angles on them and see. And the little screw. Now, I did make the mistake of not making sure I had my screws lined up, so one is slightly higher up than the other. So if I ever redo this, if I want a better uniform look, to make sure I do that. And plus the screw. Plus one thing about using the screws, it does go in with the mechanical theme of this thing, since I am using sprites from Mega Man. I can't remember. I don't think I might need to magnetize this bit. I was trying to remember. Yeah, I have to drill in and out because I kept wanting to. I think what it was is I didn't have a hole all the way through, and that's why I kept wanting to move the thing. So I had to go in and drill a slightly smaller hole. This is one of those cases where you about need a drill with his own bit in it, so you can just pick up and go instead of to keep changing out. There we go, he got in there. And now if you watch my making a jig for the table saw to make strips, I end up using that to make the base for this. And there you go. I made some strips and used the jigsaw to cut it out. To cut out the angle. I did want this at a slight angle. I was trying to figure out how I'm going to mount it. It was the one thing I was trying to figure out what I was going to do here. Because another thing is I wanted to have a piece of board on the front to keep it from pushing forward, because I got the boards on the back to keep it from falling back, but also to keep this thing from sliding, because I do have it on the shelf and I'll show you at the end. Didn't want the box being pushed back when I go to push the on-off switches. And so that's one of the things, sitting here trying to figure out how I want to mount it. And to me, the easiest way, well, the semi-easiest way would be just to take the front off and drill holes and put the screws in the back, and that's what I went with. Then that's when I end up messing. That's also when I end up messing up the other wires, and it's that left one and the center one that I always gave it to. Right now the center one's not working. That's the one that's being, where the pressure's being pushed on, that's breaking the connection somehow. The right one didn't give me any trouble. And as you see here, I got I'm drilling the holes. Use the extender to get back in there. I already have one screw already in. And this is where I think I've realized my bit ain't magnetized. So I probably need to find me a magnet and magnetize my bit so it holds the screw. Now, if I was to redo this, you may want to make the base first and put it on before adding in the wires. Or at least before soldering the wires, I should say. Again, like I said, I do want to get the heat shrink wrap because, like I said, for some reason my electrical tape does not want to stay. And one of the things was I was trying to figure out how do I want to mount the front board. And I ended up just using some screws. Have a little board that's underneath to give it slightly support. But yeah, trying to figure out how I want to mount this. You could use glues and clamps, but I didn't have clamps long enough to clamp these together. And so I also thought about decorating. I had these little bits for a drill. I can't remember what exactly they were called, but I bought a pack of them from the junk store for about $1. And I said these would be great for greeblies and other stuff like that. But I think one of the things is I really couldn't find nothing that really, as far as those that do. But I end up putting just regular screws in the front, looking through for different screws. And you can see all the different, there's different bits I got from, and then some of those rings I think are out of, no, all of those are from, I think, the same thing, but none of them fit, at least not for the screws I had. And so yeah, here I just went with just some regular screws just to screw them in. But I did not really like the way they kind of look, so I ended up looking around, and I forgot I had bought some stuff at the craft section, little gear buttons and stuff, and so I ended up putting them on. But first, right here, I'm trying to get the screw in, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Yeah, I had to find the bit for these things because these are both hex and flatheads, and I hate flathead screws because the blade always wants to come out. I don't know why that is. But yeah, I'm still trying to figure out a way to decorate this thing. Still do some test work to make sure on some stuff. And that's when I realized I actually have something I can use. I went and pulled the little plastic gears from the little craft button section I had. And with these type of screws, they kind of work. A little bit probably been better if I had used the same copper color screws like I did on the side for this. It would blend in, but for the most part, it looks fairly natural, like it should. Now, the screw, I ended up making one of these. I didn't end up tightening up one of these screws because somehow I missed the hole. And so I untied it and put it back in, and I tied it so while one of the gears actually still turns, I can go over and I can turn it with my finger, the other one doesn't. And here is a picture of the final product where it sits on my desk, where I can push it on and on. And what's good about that wood piece, I can put one finger down to help hold it in place so it does not move when I go to cut it on. Off ain't so much of an issue. But yeah, this is a way if you want to make your USB cameras a little bit more secure, is you can put a power kill switch, on-off kill switch, on the power part of, and so you want the power. Well, I guess you could do the data, but I'd rather use the power. That way it keeps people from turning on your webcams and their microphones while you're connected to the internet. So hopefully this was informative for some people and gave you some ideas for what you want to do with your own setup and for your own security and safety. Other than that, if you like this content and you enjoy what I produce, you can help support the channel by liking and subscribing and sharing with anybody you think might find this useful or interesting. Other than that, have a nice day.
Yeah.